It's getting crazy out here, Helldivers. More like it's staying crazy. And this thing seems to go from a simmer to boil every time we get a lull in the new content releases. Now, of course, we're talking about armor pen, specifically light versus medium armor pen as it relates to primary weapons. Reddit is once again kicking it up a few notches with a debate as old as Helldivers itself. There's been a lot of you-know-what flung around from both sides. We've got misinformation, we've got disinformation, and just some plain old shit talking as well. Harsh words have been said, feelings are being hurt, so yeah, it's time to turn the dial back to a more manageable simmer and work our way through this thing together. Luckily for us, the all-knowing Google has the answers for the LAP versus MAP feud. Starting off with this, it says the strengths of light armor penetration is that it often excels at taking down large numbers of smaller enemies, better known as chaff, quickly due to a high rate of fire and or large ammo capacity. Can be effective against tougher enemies when aiming for unarmored weak spots like heads or exposed body parts, but it has limitations, such as it struggles significantly against enemies with tougher armor, requiring precise shots at weak points or reliance on support weapons and stratagems. It's also less effective against armored parts of enemies, resulting in reduced damage or even ricochets. On the flip side, the strengths of medium armor penetration is that it can pierce through some but not all tiers of armor, making them effective against mid-tier enemies like Devastators, reduces the reliance on finding specific weak points on some enemies, and it simplifies combat engagements. But MAP weapons also have limitations. They may have slower fire rates or lower ammo capacity compared to LAP weapons, potentially being less efficient at clearing large groups of weak enemies. The overall usefulness of MAP weapons against heavily armored targets is limited, as they still require support weapons or strats to effectively deal with them. So again, this feud of which is what and why it's better for most of these use cases, it's going to come down to a specific subset of enemies, because both light and medium armor pen weapons are going to struggle against heavy armored enemies. But let's break it down just a shade further. Here's the core of the argument. Some players argue that LAP weapons, or light armor pen weapons, despite their limitations against armor, are highly effective when combined with accurate weak spot targeting and specialized support weapons or stratagems for heavier threats. The overall increase in mobility and adaptability offered by LAP weapons, especially with light armor, can be seen as advantageous. Man, I do love me some light armor. Despite the damage multipliers against you, that speed boost and just feeling of freedom while you're out there shooting and scooting. I've said it before, at heart, I'm a runner and gunner. From way back in the day, by the way, Modern Warfare 2, 2009. Can I get some love down in chat for Marathon Lightweight and Ninja as the perks? Or what was it? If you felt like going ultra hard, swap out Ninja for Commando. Whew. From that point on, I was hooked on speed. And you know what they say, speed kills. But we also need to present the other side of this argument, the advocates for MAP weapons, arguing that they provide a more balanced approach, allowing players to deal with a wider range of enemies more consistently without having to constantly rely on support options or perfectly aimed hits. The increased versatility can be particularly helpful in chaotic engagements. Here for MAP weapons, it's about having more availability to be effective while using your primary weapon versus more varied enemy types, which I'll touch on in just a second, without having to be such a headshot precision Sweatlord. The MAP argument also gives a player less reliance on support options like eagles, orbitals, turrets, and support weapons to deal with medium armor pen enemies. First up, we've got the handling argument to be made for light armor pen weapons. Helldivers finally added in weapon customization a few months back, and one of the things we learned how to do was to unlock and kit out our weapons for better ergonomics. Grips, muzzle attachments. I mean, we were doing everything we could to get that ergo stat up as high as possible to make the weapons feel good to handle. This makes them feel good to shoot. The snappiness, the responsiveness, that's, by the way, a stat in favor of light armor pen weapons. Just shoulder a Liberator versus a Dominator and look at the difference in responsiveness, which is down to Arrowhead loosely tying it to realism. Bigger ammo means a heavier weapon, and that means it responds slower. I know this is a bit of a touchy subject. I've talked about it many times. Is this game a mill sim? Is it a horde shooter? Who gives a damn about realism? But Arrowhead has always jumped back and forth between those two, often blurring those lines, especially when it serves their purpose, which is a whole nother can of worms and way too deep to dive into in this video. Now, sticking with this narrative of light armor pen, and we get to the second argument of ammunition. See, generally, light armor pen weapons give you more ammo because, putting on our realism hats again for a second, ammo with less armor pen is therefore lighter, and if it's lighter, we can carry more of it for our light armor pen weapons versus using a medium armor pen weapon. But these days, players have got access to things like blink packs, plasma weapons, and from the moment the game launched, we could survive our Hellpod drops hitting the planet's surface at Mach 2 billion and not get turned to jelly. But here for this ammo argument, it's about realism when it comes to tossing out mags still with rounds left in them and armor pen of the rounds affecting weight. And finally, there's that topic of RPM, where light armor pen weapons tend to have higher RPMs, spitting out more rounds downrange faster, which equals more DPS. Not the most important stat, especially if you can hit your shots, but it is a part of this argument, so let's include it. In the interest of keeping this fair and balanced, though, we don't want to leave out the mappers. They look at Arrowhead and how it seems like every time a new primary weapon is introduced into the game, it is always a light armor pen weapon. And I just say to swap over full time to the Eruptor and be done with it, but, you know, the mini nuke launcher isn't for everyone. Anyways, mappers look at it as a passive nerf to Helldivers, putting players in a constant state of not having primary firepower on par with what is trying to kill us. You have to look no further than the Ensign Corps heavy shield devs and the smoke they can deliver as an example of this imbalance. And so mappers look at those strengths on light armor pen weapons and counter back. We shouldn't need all those ergonomics. We shouldn't need all that responsiveness, blurred lines between realism and fantasy, or we don't even need all that ammo if Arrowhead would just give us weapons that when hitting center mass would penetrate enemy armor, and that's it. No fuss, no muss. I see enemy, I shoot enemy, and enemy fall down. Diving even deeper down this rabbit hole, and immediately I know what some of you are out there saying. But Buzz, light armor pen weapons can do all that shit you've been talking about as long as a player knows thy enemy and where to shoot them. For instance, everyone's favorite automaton proctologist, the heavy devastators. Now, these things start appearing on challenge difficulty missions on up to Super Helldive. They roam around with rocket devs and numerous patrols. They come down from drop ships. I mean, my point being here, they are everywhere. They carry a big-ass shield, which has an armor value of 5, meaning both light and medium armor pen weapons will do nothing against it. However, heavy shield devs are unarmored on their little itty-bitty heads, meaning if you can hit them with a precision headshot, they will immediately crumple, even when using light armor pen weapons. If you're taking too much incoming fire from one of these things, just shoot off its gun arm, which is also unarmored, turning it into a walking toaster. For all my bug divers out there, hive guards are everywhere and they soak up light armor pen rounds if you try to hit them in the head. Alpha commanders can soak up a ton of light armor rounds also to the head, but knowing where to shoot them, like from the side or at their legs, just drops them quickly, again with a light armor pen weapon. Even something like a Hulk can be dealt with using a light armor pen weapon if you can flank it and hit the glowing heat sinks on its back. Okay, it's time to really get real with this, because when you start throwing around phrases like skill issue and Sweatlord, players start drawing battle lines in the sand. Now, I've been in hundreds of random match-made parties where I've seen players running around just doing some crazy-ass stuff, shooting factory striders with liberators or laser weapons on bile-spewer butts, and at first, I just shook my head wondering what the hell these divers were doing until it dawned on me. The vast majority of Helldivers are not out there watching YouTube tutorials. They're not combing through Reddit looking for the latest strats and damage guides, and they probably don't pay attention to Twitter. They press power on, they drop in for an operation, they finish it, and they call it a night. And here's where the game fails, and it fails hard, which we've known about since before the dawn of time. You can't just stroll over to one of the ship's computers and do a little recon on enemy weak points. There's no codex for enemy armor pin values, and nowhere does the game ever take a hot minute to talk you through its hidden mechanics like drop off or durable damage. Players have had to learn through trial and error. They've been trained to recognize enemies, and they know, well, this gun will not handle that, so I need to swap to something bigger. Since I'm the one delivering this video, you might be wondering where I stand on all of this. Buzz, good sir, what is thy feelings on light versus medium armor pen weapons? And frankly, I gotta be honest with you, I use both equally. There's times when I just want to slap on the sickle and let her rip. Other times, I'm all about delivering some shock therapy with a blitzer or maining a stalwart on max RPM and getting silly with it. There's positives and negatives to both weapon types, but I do get it. I know there are some players that aren't about that precision shooting, aiming for specific areas like the crotch and take out targets gameplay. Some people just want to boot up Helldivers, they want to keep it chill, equip a weapon, and be able to aim for center mass without dealing with those hidden mechanics like different armor pin values for different body parts or durable damage. Yeah, remember I mentioned that earlier? That's a thing that is explained nowhere in the game that we probably need to talk about in another video, but let me bring it home with this. If you want to run with the variable, do it. If the tendy is more your style, then rock that thing. Maybe you like switching it up, different weapons for each faction. Again, to each their own. I mean, there really is no wrong weapon choice here, besides not forever maining the Eruptor, because there are players out there with the aim and the know-how to main a light armor pen weapon and drop targets quickly. They can hit very specific spots on enemy targets, and they know what to aim for and when to aim for it. You've also got other players that want more primary power. They want to feel more on par with what's trying to kick our asses, and they want to be able to shoot at something with medium armor pen and be able to hit it and drop it without all the heavy mental lifting, especially since the game never makes an attempt to present any of that information to them. I don't think there's any wrong answers here. It's not about light armor pen weapons being the worst, medium armor pen weapons are superior, or vice versa. I mean, is there room for improvement? Hell yes there is. And like I've said, I get where both sides are coming from here, but this thing has been going on forever. And I see those comments when I post a war bond review or I talk about a weapon, and I'm sure you see them as well. If only this weapon was this, or only if it was that. Of course, we'll keep watching the topic, and it's definitely one that seems to show no end. But as always, drop me a comment and let's see where the community lands on this one. By the way, let's keep it civil down there in the comment section as well. Please and thank you. If you happen to like the video, make sure to smash that sub button and ring the notifications bell so you never miss one of my future upload alerts. Thank you so much to our dedicated channel members from around the world, for without your support, content like this would not be possible. Until the next one, this is Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear, signing off.